Hi, Scorpio Sun and Rising. Welcome to your May 2025 Astro Update. It's Raina here. And I'm going to start by talking about a transit that is occurring on the last day of April because it is the last day of April and it's basically May. So this is Venus going back into Aries. It's going to happen on the 30th of April. And the reason that this is significant is because when Venus went retrograde on March 1st, it went retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries. And so we're talking about a time span of around 2 months that Venus has been either retrograding or in its shadow period, actually even before March 1st because of the pre-shadow period. So Venus will come out of its shadow, meaning that it will get up to that 10-degree mark around the 15th of May. So you're talking about another 2 weeks into May, because the reason we talk about these shadow periods is that there still is the energy of something not being how it was beforehand. So when a planet goes retrograde, it starts to slow down. And, Venus usually has a very quick transit of about 3.5 weeks, and it has spent months in different signs. So now it is coming out of that whole retrograde period. And Venus only retrogrades once every 1.5 years. So this whole ordeal, but, this whole situation is now coming to a close. And actually, in addition to that, Mars is coming out of its shadow on May 2nd. And I think Jupiter, I checked yesterday, and Jupiter is coming back up to speed around May 2nd too. And so these planets that had been retrograding for months beforehand are now coming out of their shadow period. And that means that we'll be able in the second half of May, all of us, to move forward much more decisively. Now, on the 4th, Pluto is going retrograde at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So there is this outer planet, Pluto, that is going retrograde. It's not going to affect us personally all that much, but we do have to look at the house it's in. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I just wanted to say, with Venus back into your 6th house, that this can be great for anything connected to money matters and your employment. So there may have been some kind of salary renegotiation, like a raise that, could be in the picture, and maybe this is when this will happen. But the bottom line is that there is the possibility for something harmonious or money-oriented to be a part of your workplace, and that could be really great for you. And also something to do with love. If you meet somebody in your workspace, that's also a possibility as well. On the 4th, like I said, Pluto goes retrograde at 3 degrees of Aquarius. This is a fellow fixed sign. It's going to be in your 4th house of home and family. Wow. Okay, so Scorpio, Pluto is one of your rulers. So when we talk about scorpionic things, we're certainly talking about Pluto-related matters. And in the 4th house, this is your childhood, okay? So this is also your mother. Some people say the father, so it could be one of your parents. And Pluto can be power struggles. And you can have a situation where maybe you're getting along with them, and then all of a sudden you're having difficulty seeing eye to eye, and then there's like this power struggle. And power struggles are not always what they seem, because when parents get older, they can't really wield the same kind of power. So they may try to, And you may be like, no, you're not going to do that. Like, for instance, if you have a narcissistic parent, they can pull out all the stops to try to maintain control. But in any case, this could also deal with your childhood. And if you have been someone, and I'm sure that this applies to a lot of people, both the sun and the rising, who have dealt with some sort of, abuse. And, sometimes this is accompanied by secrets, an example of sexual abuse, because it's just something that there's a connection with shame. There's a fear associated with it. It's just something that is often kept quiet, and it can affect people at a deep level. And sometimes it even gets blacked out. And so what we call repressed memories, these can come out, and you would be surprised later in life that they can come out. I think one woman said, who was sexually abused when she was a girl, I believe, that when she had a child, when she had a daughter, and that daughter was like 6 or whatever the age was when she had been abused, when she started to have these memories flood in. And it's because it's like she was seeing life through the eyes of her daughter. When she looked at her daughter, she was looking at herself. And that triggered the past when she was that age and when she was abused. And so it can be pretty intense, because Pluto is this excavator and this purger of secrets, of, toxic matter. And then you have the 4th house, which is childhood, and you combine these, and for sure, it could create a lot of issues with, psychological issues. And this could be one of the times when you decide to go to therapy. But I don't want to awfulize it, because it can be a very liberating thing. And I think if anybody can handle a Pluto transit in the 4th house, it would be a Scorpio. So I'm not worried about Scorpios dealing with it, to be honest with you. But it's just, when Pluto goes retrograde now, it's going to be all about you. So when we, kind of like look at our past, and we think about people that maybe did us wrong, sometimes we forget about ourselves and our place in that. And this is about looking at your reaction to things, because in order to heal, it's a two-way street. It's like the people that tend not to heal are the people that keep saying, so and so did this to me. And it's like and it could be 100% true, but they're like, they're not looking at the bigger picture, because unless you just believe that life is a random, chaotic thing, if you believe that there is some reason why things happen, then we have to include ourselves in all of this, not to blame the victim, but just to look at like, wow, okay, so this happened to me, and then I started using drugs because I didn't want to deal with that pain. And you start to say to yourself, could I have made a different choice at that time? Did I have to do that? And, some people wouldn't have done that. And they would have done something maybe more constructive, like maybe they would have gone to therapy. Maybe they would have told somebody what they were dealing with and trying to get it out of themselves instead of like trying to numb their pain. So it's a very interesting thing, and I think that it's going to really help you, and it's going to free you. It's just like in the, like as you're working with this, because not everybody has Pluto transiting their 4th house in their lifetime, you're meant to deal with this. And this is the work. We're always doing the work. If we look at it as work, like that this is my real work in life. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to actually, I'm here to heal ancestral trauma. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to stop the cycle of abuse. I'm going to, do better. Then I think that it's going to work out that way. On the 10th, Mercury goes into Taurus, which is your opposite sign. And this opposite house is the 7th house of committed partnership. Oh, I forgot to say, I like to say that this is a general reading, and the actual dates that I tell you about these transits, they may not be the same dates that they go into the houses for you. It is going to depend on your degree of sun or rising of when this happens. But the 7th house, this is something Mercury can be communicating with someone, or Mercury can be like a contract, like a legal contract. The 7th house can be legal affairs, but it's also committed partnership. So it could be getting a marriage license. It could be calling up the caterers or whatever, communicating with somebody about a wedding. It could be communicating with your partner about something important. On the 12th or 13th, depending on where you live, is the full moon in your sign, Scorpio, 22 degrees. So this, it's so funny because when we have a full moon in Scorpio, suffice it to say, this is arguably could be the most intense full moon of the year. In terms of it, full moons, they represent, people think of emotions. Yes, it can be heightened emotions, but it's also secrets coming out. And Scorpio is a sign that we associate with secrets, that we associate with intensity, emotional intensity. It's a water sign, so it is emotional. So it should be, a doozy. And it's in your sign. So there may be something that you realize about yourself that makes you want to maybe stop doing it, or maybe let go of something within yourself that you keep perpetuating, behavior, whatever. And you say, you know what, I'm done with this. It could be a bad habit, like an addiction or something like that. But it could be that you just come to an understanding about yourself at a deeper level. Because it's a full moon, the sun is opposing it from the 7th house of committed partnership. So this could be a time, if there is relationship drama, where you're focusing on yourself. Either that you need to become more, maybe you need to stop doing something. If I had to guess, if it's something you need to stop doing, it would probably be that you need to stop distrusting your partner. That you might be too invasive with them. And that might be very off-putting to another person who needs more freedom. And in your mind, you might be saying, yeah, well, I just, I've gotten cheated on and betrayed like multiple times. Like you might think I have a good reason for it. And yet the bottom line is that that doesn't give you the right to treat somebody like that because they're a different person. Your history is your history. It's not that person's fault that somebody else cheated, but you might just realize your own insecurities or some other thing that you have allowed to kind of drive your behavior in a direction that you don't want it to be. Or maybe your partner's neglecting you and you realize, I need to focus more on myself. I'm codependent. I'm putting too much emphasis on my partner's, life. I'm too lost in his life or her life, and I need to reclaim my own life. On the 20th, the sun goes into Gemini, and that is the 8th house. That's the house that you rule. So the sun will be right at home there, being all intense and everything. And then on the 24th, Saturn enters Aries. So Saturn enters the 6th house. When Saturn enters the 6th house, it's time to roll up your sleeves and get down to work. This is a time, and I just was talking about Venus going into that sector. So there might be something where maybe you're getting a promotion or something's, because you did have a solar eclipse there. So maybe you have had these wonderful opportunities work-wise. And now that because both Mercury and Venus went retrograde in Aries in that 6th house, and now Saturn is there, and Saturn is kind of the cleanup crew. Saturn wants to build your foundations, but in order to do that, you might have to work a lot on the front end. So your work ethic can get honed very nicely during this time. On the 25th, Mercury goes into Gemini. So we're in Gemini season, and that means that these Gemini placements will be in that 8th house, and you already have Jupiter there. So Scorpio, when Jupiter is in your 8th house, this can be a time when you receive an inheritance or some other money that comes from a source that you didn't have to work for. So because Mercury is there, and because Mercury is in the 7th house, this may have even been something to do with a legal matter. So it could have been a will. Or if you've gotten divorced, then it could be like the proceeds from the divorce that this is related to. On the 26th or 27th, depending on where you live, we have a new moon at 6 degrees of Gemini in that house. So I definitely think other people's money will be featured in the last week of May, but going into June, because Jupiter will still be in that sector. And this is also, being your house, Scorpio, this is the house of transformation, and it's the house of metaphysics. It includes the occult, like astrology and the tarot, but other practices like shamanism. This can be, or paganism. And if you have any interest in those topics, you may be enrolling in some kind of mystery school, or some kind of practice that involves that kind of spirituality, and that might be a really great thing for you, because when Jupiter is there, it's very lucky for you. So that's what I have for you, Scorpio. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, I have chart readings, transit readings, and I have a combination of the two called my deep dive reading, which is a package deal. It's it has a discounted price. If you like the tarot as well, those 3 readings are all full-length readings. Is called the whole enchilada, and I have career readings, love readings. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Have a great month. Bye.